Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. Hello, everyone. This is Shooting It Raw. Thanks for joining me. And for this week's episode, I'm going to bring an episode back from 2 years ago, July 2021, with Jenny Page. Jenny Page is, to get to her, even though we're in the same part of the world, was a trek. But she's super nice, super talented, a great soul. Yeah, do enjoy. This is a good one. Okay, bye. Jenny Page. Awesome.
I'm sorry.
No, listen. When you say sorry, I have to do 10 push-ups, so no sorry. Okay, let's go. Jenny Page, thank you.
Hello.
I think this is the closest I've sat to somebody fiddling at me. Jenny Page, thank you so much. We are on Lamma Island in Hong Kong. It is, excuse me if I have rivulets of sweat going down because it's 34 degrees outside. Yeah, let's just dive into the photo.
Great.
So this is what I see. Okay, so I'm going to look at it and decode it and see what I see. So you're in costume. That doesn't look like your real hair.
No, I'm definitely wearing a wig.
Okay. You're wearing a crimson, blood red dress with underneath. It's like what is the correct term for that blouse? Whatever it is.
I should know this. Is it camisole? I've forgotten the actual name, but yeah, it's
So this looks like a studio photo.
I actually just took that in my home.
Oh.
I had one of those crazy setups where you put a load of books on a table and you put your phone on the books and hope that it doesn't fall off, and you spend hours trying to get the timer right.
Right. Oh, okay.
I was doing it as a very gentle kind of promotion for a medieval style gig that I was going to do for my birthday. So it didn't need to be anything professional. But actually, the photo turned out okay, I thought.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so the image, you're in the dress. Behind you is like a cream-colored wall. The light's coming from the top. Because of the medieval dress, it looks like a period piece kind of setup.
Yeah.
You're holding your fiddle. You're looking kind of down. Your face is quite neutral. Your hand is actually just blurry enough to suggest that you're actually playing.
I was actually playing. In fact, I was playing the tune that I just started here
Oh.
now. It's an Italian medieval tune called Saltarello.
Okay.
And it was a dance. And this is one of the tunes used for the dance. And it was a court dance in medieval Renaissance Italian courts.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was playing that one in the photo, just to make it look like I'm actually playing. So
But-
it's not too posed.
Okay, so but you said this was for your birthday.
Yeah, this year, in January, because it's cooler in January, so you can wear the clothes
Sure.
like this in Hong Kong.
Sure.
My good friends Alex and Sean Softly, who also live on Lamma and who are two other fantastic fiddlers in Hong Kong, they opened up their rooftop, and with me they learned some Italian, French and British medieval music.
Okay.
And we put on a mini concert
Mm.
because of COVID and everything. We didn't open it up to the public really.
Just on the roof, people walking by could hear it?
I guess they probably could, but we didn't have many people walking past. But we had enough people come to the rooftop. Everyone was being sensible and like keeping social distance and everything. Because January we still had a lot of cases. But yeah, it was nice just to have a small gathering,
Mm-hmm.
be able to play the music. And actually everyone that was playing with me, so we had Alex and Sean on guitar and viola, and a friend of mine, Yuko, was playing the barn, the Irish drum.
Right.
And Chris was on the pipes.
Oh, wow.
And we were all dressed in,
Ah.
not strictly speaking, authentic medieval clothes, but we were dressed in things that felt like it sort of represented that era.
Okay.
Because I have a couple of dresses with the long sleeves, so I lent them out to the girls, and then Chris was wearing something that made him look a little bit, a sort of a mixture between a Lord of the Rings elf and a medieval lord.
Right. Okay. Everybody's okay. So I love this. I love the photo. I love being welcomed into your world. I have to describe what's around because the environment is amazing. Okay, so in our exchange, you're like, do you like Tolkien? And I made some silly joke. And what I like is everybody's kind of bent. Everybody's a little bit strange. Everybody's kind of idiosyncratic.
Yeah.
The fact that you went on a roof and you're playing together is beautiful. And I can imagine the setting, wintry, less full-on jungle, but still kind of green and dry brush, but with the hillside behind and the water around.
Yeah.
But you're in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
So, which is quite Asian. And then you're playing this music.
Yeah.
It's a little strange.
Well, the wonderful thing about the people I was playing with on the rooftop as well is we're all members of the band Arbory, which is traditional tune band. We play British, Canadian folk tunes and some Irish as well. And Arbory is made up of 6 people, and we cover 3 different continents. We all met in Hong Kong.
Oh, wow.
Apart from the Canadian couple, they're married. They met in Canada. But yeah, we've got 2 guys from Canada, 1 from the US, 1 from Japan.
Okay.
And then the piper is from Hong Kong.
Oh, wow.
And then I'm English.
Okay.
And I love that I moved to Asia and found people that not only do they like the same kind of music as me, but they all play the same tunes, and if we don't know the same tunes, we learn them, and we'll have sessions.
Sure.
Not jam sessions, but tune sessions. I know for anyone that isn't completely aware, jam session, like maybe you'll turn up and anything could happen, any instruments could be there. Tune sessions, it tends to be more folk musicians turning up to specifically play tunes.
Yeah, more structured.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. And we'll do that often, and it's just awesome being in Hong Kong, and I think it's the reason that I'm still here. I never imagined moving to Hong Kong and, actually settling and getting my PR and having a very solid
home
base here. Solid home with so much music.
Wow.
So much music.
So we yes, totally. we drifted off from the environment because we're in your room and it's like there's a harp behind me.
Yeah.
There's a harp. What is that called?
That's a lyre.
A lyre. A lyre. Yes,
yeah.
Right. There are 2 lyres in the room. One's made out of wood. As you promised, you have several bottles of gin.
Yeah. I like my gin.
There are lots of books. Terry Pratchett, a few plants, very nice. Mirror, a exercise bike, some hangers.
That's my punk band.
Okay, so there's a poster on the wall that says Bali Chunder.
Yes.
What's the story of? Am I saying it wrong? How would I say it correctly?
That is exactly how you should say it. Bali Chunder. Yeah, Bali Chunder.
Okay, what is Bali Chunder?
Well, Bali is a word that you'll often find in Irish towns, like.
Right.
Did you ever see the TV show Bally Kiss Angel?
No.
No. Okay. That was a big one in Britain when I was growing up. Bally. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Think Irish town.
Okay, town.
Because we're an Irish, folk punk band. We started off just doing Irish stuff, but now we do all sorts. And then Chunder, meaning to throw up.
Yeah.
So I guess it translates as to Puke Town.
Yeah. Well, how old is this? The poster, and how old is the band?
The band started. That's a good question. We've been going for maybe 4-5 years.
Also in Hong Kong.
Yeah. So
Full on.
there's a great punk scene in Hong Kong, and 2 members of one of the punk bands called Defiant Scum, which unfortunately no longer is going. I know, great name, right?
No, but it's like the what's it called? Monty Python, when they're talking about like football teams or whatever. It's like all these crazy names. You're just like, right, okay, so Defiant Scum, go on.
Defiant Scum, great punk band in Hong Kong. The three of the members, Marcus, Murray, and Pierre, they are good friends of mine, and Murray and Pierre decided they wanted to go down the folk punk route, like do some of that, something similar to the Pogues, but even more crazy.
Okay.
And they put together a ragtag band of musicians, and who was it to begin with? It was a guy called James on banjo, and Jimmy on.
It has to be bass. Jimmy. You had to have Jimmy and James.
Yeah, right. Sure, yeah.
Sure.
And actually, Jimmy is the bassist in Arbery as well.
Okay.
So I get to be in 2 bands with him, which is nice.
How many bands are you in?
That's a good question. Arbery, Over the Border, Bali Chunder, Naganijits, and then I play with an accordion player, and I play with a guitarist as well. Quite a lot. Six things going on.
Well, when I sent you a message, you're like, "Oh, I'm having a mental weekend because it's gigs all weekend." I was like, "That is the best."
That's true.
That's true. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to this photograph. How is that opening a door you want to talk to?
So I have, for quite a lot of my life, had the mentality that if you're going to do something, it has to be done properly. And it's taken me a long time to figure out how to make that work for me. Because especially with my degree being in folk and traditional music.
Where's your coffee? Have more.
Take another sip.
You very nicely agreed to join me at like 7 a.m. or whatever time it is right now. Feel free to sputter. It's good. Okay.
And obviously on this degree we're learning a lot about traditional music of the British Isles, and we learn a lot about authenticity, and actually that came into so many of my modules on my degree, this idea of authenticity in music, in life in general. Like it was one of the philosophical things I remember actually looking at in some of my modules. And I have always just been very aware of how a lot of musicians, particularly folk musicians in the UK, really do work very hard on their research. They're always looking for new music in the UK to bring to audiences, but keeping it traditional, keeping it authentic.
Right.
And I have always admired that, and I love it. I do. But there's just so much else going on in my head. I want to do this, I want to do this. But I've been so worried about how other people will react to that.
Okay.
Maybe there will be people turning around and saying, "Oh, but you haven't done this, or you haven't done this, or you haven't done this." And I always feel like I haven't researched enough.
Okay.
And I think that that's my own issues, my own insecurities. And as I've gotten older, and certainly as I've moved to Hong Kong, I've started to just think, why am I putting off doing the things that I want to do because I'm worried about how other people will perceive it?
Right.
And the medieval night for me was a big step forward, because I don't have authentic medieval instruments. I have played some before in the UK, but I don't have any, especially not here. And I don't necessarily play the tunes exactly how they would have been played. I have done a lot of research. I love reading about, the history of the time, and reading about musicians of the time. And I've been very lucky to be able to play with some
Wow.
fantastic musicians in the UK, which I was very happy about. Like one of my teachers on my degree, a guy called Paul Martin, who is he is a medieval piper,
Right.
And he taught me a lot. I learned so much from him. But I just really wanted to bring that music back and play it with my friends here, but also just have a night where we dress up and, you know, play the music, drink and have fun and just be merry.
So in my sort of personal exploration or whatever, this notion of dressing up, which sounds so childish or whatever, but this notion of, you know, inhabiting a different persona or exploring, you know, like for example, you getting down to the clothing, which is not perfect, and the music, which is maybe not perfect, but in this situation or setting, not exact.
Yeah, exactly.
But is it a question of, you know, in terms of that notion of authenticity, is it about honoring the past? Is it about reviving the past? Is it about capturing something lost? What in that really kind of ignites your interest?
That's a very good question. I think everyone's idea of authenticity in music probably differs a little bit. So I'm sure some people are coming to it thinking it's about revival, accurate revival. Other people are coming to it thinking it's about keeping it alive. And I think for me, it was about, what I was worried was that I wasn't going to be representing it properly. But then I just thought, but by not playing the music, I'm not representing anything at all. So I may as well just play the music.
Sure.
And the great thing about Hong Kong audiences, actually, I will say this about Hong Kong audiences, is they just love live music.
Oh, okay.
You don't get people coming up to you here making comments about how you could work on this, you could work on this. Maybe friends will do that afterwards. But one lovely thing here is that people just enjoy the live music, especially now with all of the closures and everything. We take what we can get, And that was one really lovely thing about the medieval night. No one cared that we weren't playing exact instruments of the time, or that maybe one of the tunes we were putting in chords that wouldn't have been played. We were just trying to create an atmosphere. Right. It worked well.
Do you feel like it sort of begs to be asked in how you're describing it? And, you know, I mean, we're having a conversation face to face, so I can read your face and your body language, whatever. So is the notion of like imposter syndrome something?
I have that so massively.
What? No. Okay.
And I've talked to so many musicians about this, and teachers, like some of my music teachers as well. And this is a very big thing in the music world that actually I don't think gets talked about enough. This idea of, should I really be here? Like, do I deserve to be here?
Right.
Am I doing anything good? Am I bringing anything to anyone? And certainly you're always going to have gigs that don't go that well.
Right.
That's just, if you're gigging enough, it's going to happen.
Of course.
And after those gigs, it can be
quite,
for me, I should say, it could be quite mentally damaging. It was one of the reasons why I thought to myself, am I cut out to be a full-time professional musician?
Right.
And I made the decision, not lightly, that I was not cut out for full-time.
Okay.
So I would argue in Hong Kong I'm a part-time professional musician. Like I have my full-time day job and I do the music in the evenings and the weekends.
Right.
And this is kind of perfect for me because I'm not reliant as much on the income coming into the music.
Sure.
So I really can take a step back if I need to. And that's been how I've got through the insecurities that I've had.
Okay, so the podcast, it's framed around photography, using photographs, but the underlying question is, we have one life. How do we live in a way that we make the most of every second, right? And so by talking to different people, you're the second musician, maybe the first. Everybody's a bit weird, so the first token bonkers person. That's a compliment, kind of. Okay, but so this is kind of how you craft an understanding of your life and of reality, and I'm all about coaching people and helping people feel that whatever they're doing and going through is okay. So when you're saying that, the whole thing about the imposter syndrome and everything, part of it could be because of an age, right? Like, I think when you're younger, you really give a fuck about everything. So shit, I have to get this right. But the older you get, you're like, I'm just gonna have fun.
That's definitely happened. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that I do think about these things, because I do think that it is important to think about the history of music and how far it's come and what it used to be like. The instruments, how they were really played, and I will happily go to say a Baroque or Renaissance performance with musicians playing actual instruments, and the things that they can do to keep this music alive are absolutely superb.
Yeah.
It's astounding. It's just that I also wanted to do other things.
In this photo that you sent, it's called Keeping Busy and Mentally Healthy in COVID Times. Okay, you're in this incredible space that, if you haven't seen it before, it's quite it's a bit surreal. It's a kind of luxury hotel / art space. I mean, I'm sure it is K12, right?
K11 Musea.
Okay, sure, K11 Musea.
I know that there are a few, but it's the one by the water, the building with all of the green plants down the side of it.
Right.
And there's a really beautiful building.
It's amazing.
On the TST side. Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
It really is. I'm not the sort of person that goes to malls to spend time, because crowds can sometimes make me feel a little bit agitated.
Same, yeah.
So sometimes shopping malls in Hong Kong can be bad spaces for me. But this one is just something else.
Yeah, it's quite intense. I mean, I think one of the criticisms against it is that it's beautiful, it's luxurious, it's all these amazing things, and it's so crafted. So it's like visually just unbelievable. So in the photograph, you are standing, I guess, on the downstairs on the nice tiles, gray tiles. Next to you is a man with a gigantic.
Yeah.
That's the biggest accordion I've ever seen. It's a humongous accordion. Either that or the guy is tiny. I mean, like, it's so big. And he's mid playing, and you're standing next to him. I was gonna say that you guys are in your fine dress attire.
That's it. We had to dress smartly for this gig.
Sure. And so you're playing downstairs, just to the public.
Yeah, anyone who is happens to be wandering around the mall.
COVID times.
Yeah. You can tell by the masks that in order for us to be able to perform here, we have to be masked at all times.
Right.
So, which means no oboe for me, which is a shame, but I do like playing the violin.
Okay.
So,
are you drifting away from the violin?
No, I wouldn't say drifting away. No, to be honest, I kind of drifted away from the oboe.
Oh.
The oboe was my inseparable instrument. That's why I included the last photo.
Okay.
Of me with my oboe.
Oh, a bit of foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I definitely drifted away from the oboe, which shocked me a lot, and I'm trying to drift back towards the oboe.
Okay. How long, when you have these gigs, how long are you playing for?
So this one is a bit different from your average gig. We would play for 15 minutes and then take a break.
Okay.
Play for another 15 minutes. Take a break. Another 15 minutes, take a break, another 15 minutes. So 2 hours, but
wow.
15 minutes of playing, 15 minutes break.
Always in the same spot or moving around?
The first time I got asked to do this, we stayed in the same spot. The second time we were actually walking around, we were going outside as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it was actually a lot of fun because I love the gigs where people aren't always, sitting down listening. It's nice to get a little bit of both.
Yeah.
It's nice to have the gigs where people are sat listening to you, and it's also sometimes nice to just do the gigs where you can just play and not worry so much.
Uh-huh.
And that was one of them. And the piano accordion player that I'm playing with, his name is Nazar. He's a very talented classical piano accordion player. We met Free Space Jazz Fest in November last year, 2020, and I got chatting to him. I was showing him some of the folk music that I do, and he was really interested to learn some British folk music. So we've been working on tunes since then, and it's going well. Yeah, the music sounds good, I think. So he's the one that got me the gigs.
Okay.
And it's been really good for me just being able to play out, even if it's in a mask.
Sure.
The masks, I know that sounds bad. I understand exactly why we have to wear the masks. But when you're playing the violin, every now and again, because the violin's on your shoulder, it will push the mask up and then you get poked
right in the eye.
So it's been a whole other learning curve, learning how to play the violin while wearing a mask.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's kept me sane.
Yeah.
The music has kept me sane.
Sure. Okay.
And with all the closures of obviously I understand why countries around the world are doing this. It's not a criticism, but it has been hard not getting the gigs in, and I'm sure every musician around the world,
performers are like, I need an audience.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's really amazed me how so many musicians have really just worked out things, like maybe they've done a lot of recording,
online courses, like shows or whatever,
on all the online stuff. Exactly. I did do a couple of live streams, which was good. So that got me into doing some gigs that way. But I am not very technologically capable.
Even the word is kind of like
I struggle to say the word. Yeah, exactly.
No, okay.
I joke that I am sort of stuck in the 15th century.
Okay.
I've just about figured out how to use my smartphone.
Okay.
So for me, I've been relying on other people
to
help me get the music in, because I just haven't.
Well, I can imagine. I don't think you have to whisper. You're in your own house. You're not going to get in trouble. It's interesting to me that, through this podcast, I've gotten the excuse to reach out to strangers. And it's all about sharing how different people are either coping or making meaning, and really diving into why this and why that and how. And so for me, it's a treat, and it just reveals how different people's function. And so for example, we're on Lamma in this nice, cozy apartment on this island outside of Hong Kong, which is nuts and full on. And in this small space, your small space is not a judgment, because Hong Kong, everything's small. So
yeah.
But and this could be a cue for you to drink some coffee. Anyways, I'll edit out all the crappy stuff. But especially gurgling.
Oh yeah, sorry. Definitely done that at one point.
But it's just fascinating to me to see how people make sense of the world. And right now, it's like with COVID, everything's kind of people who need an audience. What do you do? Yeah. And how do you create that opportunity?
I have been just trying to meet as many musicians as possible to just play, rehearse. The Canadian couple in Arbury, Alex and Sean, they have a wonderful rooftop on Lamma that they've been able to have rehearsals on.
Nice.
And just so we've been getting music in that way. And then I have just really, really taken to how to explain. I'm still not very good at talking about this, because
your English is very good. I have to say, you're very articulate. You're speaking very well. Is that what you mean?
No. So I just before COVID hit, I'd made this promise to myself that I was going to go down the cosplay route finally.
Okay.
Because I've always liked dressing as different characters.
Yeah.
And I love changing how I look.
Okay.
And I love, it's kind of an art form for me. And I love being able to include my music in this. Okay. So I guess my way of coping was combining the cosplay and the music, which was the medieval knight, I guess. Just having fun with the costumes and the music. Because you could argue that, I think that I would say that we were not bringing authentic medieval European music, but what we were doing was creating a medieval style, an atmosphere that could transport people to a slightly different place. And maybe going along some sort of, I don't know, Lord of the Rings line, like something a little bit like that. Some kind of weird fusion of medieval European with fantasy.
Right.
Which actually ended up being quite good, I think. And we all had a lot of fun. And that's been my coping mechanism, just pushing myself to do the things I've always wanted to do that I've been too scared to do because I've been worried that, because of the imposter syndrome thing we were talking about before, that it wasn't going to be good, it wasn't going to be good enough, people were going to find it strange or weird. But the wonderful thing particularly about Lamma, is people do just sort of throw themselves into things. Hong Kong in general. I have noticed that since moving here, I've come out of my shell a lot more.
Okay, this is a sharp turn from the previous conversation.
Yes.
In that we're talking about you in music, coping, and then in this photograph, can't see your face, your back is turned to the photographer. On your forearm is what I know to be a guard. Is it like a drawstring guard?
Yeah, it stops the string from hurting.
You're pulling back in very nice form. You're pulling back with your elbow nice and high. You're pulling back a wooden shaft arrow on a bow.
I think that's a bamboo arrow.
It's a bamboo arrow.
I think. I will double check.
Okay. Yes. And you're pulling back a more classic style bow.
Yeah, this is a traditional Chinese style or Mongolian style bow. I've been learning for a year in Hong Kong. My teacher, I met him through one of the archery centres in Lai Chi Kok.
I've been.
Yeah, it's a good one. But now we go to one in Sampo Kong, and I have lessons with him. He's a great teacher. I have a lot of fun.
Okay.
And yeah, this ties in with what we were talking about, coping and finding coping methods during 2020 and 2021.
Yeah.
And I just needed something to help me regulate myself, help me regulate my emotions. I was getting so stressed, and there was not a lot of music happening, and this was my realization that gigs had kind of been my crash mat, that when things were going wrong in my life, I wasn't necessarily dealing with it like I should be, because gigs were keeping me going, giving me energy, keeping me high.
Yeah. And
losing so many gigs just due to closures made me realize that there were some deep issues that I needed to resolve, which I mean, everyone has their own things, so I'm sure everyone can, as I'm sure this resonates with everyone. Nothing special here, but it was an important moment for me because this was the first time I was really realizing that I had a lot of stuff I needed to work on that I hadn't been for so many years, especially with moving to Hong Kong and continuing the music here. There have just been so many distractions. Hong Kong can be a very distracting place. And I mean that in a very good way.
Yeah.
And so I was trying yoga, meditation, things like this. And I'm sure if I go back to it and keep trying, I can succeed, but it just wasn't right for me at that time.
Going
it
back
wasn't
to
working.
it being what, yoga? Meditation?
Yeah, yoga and meditation. It wasn't helping me to calm myself, regulate my emotions. I know it works really well for so many people, but it wasn't right for me at the time. And so I was trying to think, what can I do? And I remembered trying this in the UK.
Okay.
And I just thought, why don't I see if I can do archery in Hong Kong? And turns out there are so many archers in Hong Kong, so many teachers, so many ranges, which is great.
Okay.
And I got in contact with the first one that came up on Google, which was the Golden Trust one in Lai Chi Kok. And it just went from there. And I very quickly realized that this was a very, very good way for me to build my focus and build my mental strength, because especially with the approach that my teacher's been using with me, it's very similar to martial arts. I mean, he's explained to me archery is one of the arts in China, and the way they approach archery is same way they would approach the martial arts that they have. So he's been teaching me something called the 10 steps of archery, and it's very steady, very controlled, very focused, and it's really helping.
Nice.
And I love it.
Wow, you should see your face.
Yeah.
I believe you. I believe it.
I know, my eyes just light up.
I believe it. I totally believe it.
I get a little sparkle.
Okay, so only because I have to somehow connect with that. You, in the UK, stumbled upon archery.
It was actually because of the medieval music.
Okay.
I was going to a lot of fairs and getting to try it there, which was great. And we got to have archery lessons when I was in primary school as well, which was kind of fun.
That's a different sort of experience. Like for example, I personally have had a sort of obsession with archery, in that I remember as a kid having a sort of a dream about using a bow, and then having a recurring dream of using a compound bow. And then finally, like 2 years ago, actually when COVID started, and I brought my daughter to Savannah, Georgia. And I think I may have had, it was like sparked by a dream or something, but then I woke up one morning and I was like, I'm going to get a bow. And I haven't touched the bow, nothing. And so I ended up getting this really, really nice bow, and just slowly getting into archery as well. And having gone to the range in Lai Chi Kok, and not traditional.
You're using recurve or compound?
It's a compound.
You're using compound.
Yeah, I mean,
I haven't tried compound.
Well, okay, if you can pull it back, it's very strong. But
yes, imagine.
But one of the things, if we're going to talk about imposter syndrome, in which I'm an imposter at 99% of things in the world, I would not associate archery with a meditative, calming, focusing thing. So, let me understand that. Why, how?
Because it's all about... okay, so let me explain it through the way I approach trying to hit the bullseye, like in the middle of the target. If I am aiming, trying to get it exactly in the middle, I'm never going to hit that. If I'm aiming only by looking at the target and just trying to hit that, it just doesn't happen. It's all about your body. It's all about doing the technique spot on. And the actual aiming with the eye is almost, for me, it feels almost secondary.
Yeah,
which
no, I understand
sounds kind of crazy, but...
I understand it totally.
Yeah, and so I am more likely to be hitting that yellow or gold, or when we use the traditional Chinese ones, I think it's a tiger's face. The target, I mean. I am more likely to be grouping well and hitting close to the middle if I am focused on my breathing, my strength in my arms, holding the bow properly, not overextending, and or not making sure that I'm anchoring in the same place. If anyone doesn't know what I mean by that, it's when you draw the arrow back, You want to make sure you are drawing it back to the same place every time. So you choose like a spot. When I'm drawing back in my face, it tends to be around my cheekbone.
Sure.
But I've also been learning how to aim lower.
Yeah.
So I'm bringing it closer to my heart. And if I'm doing all of this and really aware of my body, then the arrow flies straight.
Sure.
And that for me was when I realized that, I just remember thinking, oh, this is a really kind of important life lesson. Like, instead of trying to make everything happen the way I want it to,
right,
I need to just focus on who I am, what I'm doing, and if it doesn't work out the way I wanted it to, just to let it go and just keep focusing on who I am, how I'm approaching everything. And so archery kind of was this light bulb moment that archery gave me on how to find more inner peace in my own life. I also got very good advice from people around me, like my archery teacher was saying similar things. I have other friends who are quite spiritual who gave me fantastic advice on this too. Sure. And it kind of reinforced this idea that I'd come to learn just through archery. So for me, I think one of the reasons why it's working so well for me now, I don't get the imposter feeling when I'm doing the archery because I am still very much a student.
Right.
And that's really working well for me because I don't feel like I'm doing something that I don't feel like I shouldn't be there. Like I'm in Hong Kong. I want to learn more about, the traditions that Hong Kong and China have. And it is really great for me to be able to do that. And the wonderful thing about learning the Chinese Mongolian style is the steps that they do take, and it's so steady and so slow, and it's all just focusing on you and bringing it into you and focusing on what you're doing. And that helps me outside of archery. That helps me because I'm much more aware of maybe when I'm getting tension in certain parts of my body. Yeah. And as a musician, this is something I should have been already good at because, you can, especially if you're a fiddle player, you need to be careful with your shoulders and things. But I guess I just got lost along the way with that. And archery's helped me to bring this back. Bring this back, take care of myself. Sure. And I'm building up my upper body strength. Okay. I'm actually getting some muscle here now. Okay. My right arm is much bigger than my left arm.
Please note that she's flexing for the audio. I love it.
This is the biggest my arm's ever been.
That's
it's
great.
Still tiny, but
let me connect a few dots to that. So one thing is that connecting it to as a kind of martial art. Okay, so I've been doing martial arts, a certain kind of martial art, like Thai, like Muay Thai, for 25 years, and I can handle myself well enough. But I would never say that I have a mastery of it in the sense that I would always say that I'm a student. I'm a student with 25 years of experience. Yeah. And I am, because of that and other things, I'm very aware of physical expression, physical movement and everything. So I mentioned earlier, this is the closest I've been to somebody playing a fiddle. I was aware of when we started, because you didn't warm up. You just sort of picked it up and just started playing.
I wish I had warmed up.
No, I know you should have. But in a way, you're warming up through the recording. And I could see in your hands, I could see that originally it's like, was it the being self-conscious of us recording with a microphone and me, this weird person in your house, and this new person, and you're playing, and all of a sudden you're like on this, okay, play something. And you're just like, oh, okay. So I'm getting, but you know what I mean? Like, and what was interesting was that as you kind of got into it more, I could see in your face and your fingers, and I could see that you're kind of settling into the practice. Like, okay, I know your body was kind of getting more into it, and the music sounded a little bit less worried, I guess.
Yeah, I probably should have warmed up a little bit. I was very aware when I started that my fingers are sleepy. Sure.
Well, you hadn't had your coffee. It's okay.
Exactly.
But so let's tie that to the archery, in that it's this notion of, you could, like, for example, my bow is like bells and whistles, you know, because I bought it secondhand, so it came with all the bells and whistles of like
Cool.
the sights and everything, and,
Yeah.
and so that's one way of nailing your aim so well.
Yeah.
And yet there's even this idea of shooting instinctively,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
That's really, I think, the word.
Which is what you have to do, I guess, with the traditional bows, because we just don't have any help.
Yeah.
I have never shot with a modern bow. It's always been with a traditional bow. That's what I love. I mean, I probably should try one just to see what it's
listen,
like.
it's not like you have years of experience. I never shot it's like, wait a second.
No, I just mean because I was going to the medieval fairs and stuff, so they didn't have the modern bows. So every time I've tried it, it's always been with a very basic bow. But it's kind of fun for me to do that, and I don't care about how much I'm missing the target or how much I'm hitting it. It really is just, for me, it's just fun.
So when you go, how long do you normally shoot for?
An hour.
An hour? Okay.
Sometimes, the other day I went for an hour and a half.
Okay.
But we were shooting from 18 meters, and that'd be my first time going 18 meters for a few months. So I did get quite tired.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I slowly built up to 18 meters, but then I had some friends join the lessons, which is really nice. It's nice to be able to share it with someone as well. It kind of brought even more energy to the lessons, because I'm still focused on myself, but it's also nice to just every now and again break that and just have a conversation.
Well, we're social animals.
Exactly.
So. So now in this photograph, you hinted at it before, and we're going to get into it. So in the photo, so you're standing, holding an oboe.
Mm-hmm. There's Nemo, my oboe.
Nemo, you're holding Nemo, your oboe. Behind on the screen is a slide of a very nice logo of the name Arbory, which I understand is your band.
Yeah.
And then behind you, I see like amps, and I see what looks like maybe a drum kit on the right, but definitely the fiddle. And we're talking about costume before. I don't think you're in costume in this one.
No, just formal-ish gig. So this was a gig where we had to be kind of smart, but it doesn't have to be white tie, black tie, kind of smart.
Let's just wait for the... Sorry.
Helicopter landing.
Is it landing?
Yeah, it's coming down.
Switch.
As a performer, I should be doing this regularly.
Yeah.
And so I've been doing this with the medieval night, pushing myself to do that, and pushing myself with the accordion player. That's because we've got two very different musicians working together, and it's really making me change how I view things, change how I see things, change how I work on things. And so it's very good for me. That's pushing me out of my comfort zone. And this is going to tie very nicely into the oboe.
Great.
Just pushing myself to do things that I've always wanted to do, but I'd never had the confidence before.
Okay.
And I'm finally reaching a point where I just say, just do it, Jenny. So when you asked, I thought my initial response was, I have nothing valuable to bring to a podcast. But then I thought, just do it.
It turns out you're wrong.
Wow.
So far, okay, last photo. It's all downhill from here. No, don't worry. Okay, so in this photograph, when was it made?
This would have been March 2020 at Lauback, the restaurant / venue in the West Kowloon Cultural District. Free space.
Oh.
And we were very lucky. They let us come do a gig at the restaurant, and it was so much fun.
Oh, wicked.
Yeah, and this was my first time performing on oboe in a long time, and I was very nervous. And because Nemo and I, that's my oboe, we were inseparable in the UK. When I was doing my folk and traditional music degree, fiddle was my secondary instrument, really. It was the one that I had more lessons on, just because it was difficult for them to find me an oboe teacher. And my fiddle playing did improve a lot. I had a wonderful teacher, Katrina MacDonald. She was fantastic. She really helped me to become much more confident with my playing.
Right.
So I left the degree a completely different fiddler in amazing ways.
Sure.
But definitely oboe was the one that I felt confident on. It was the one that I would want to play more. I identified more as an oboist than I did a violin player or a fiddler. All of my friends from university, they'll tell you, that it was just a part of me.
Right. You named it. I mean,
it's got a name.
So it's like, it's obviously...
It's actually he has a name.
He has a name, okay.
Yeah. And every gig I did, he would be with me. We would be doing the gig together.
Right.
Whereas now, most of my gigs in Hong Kong, it's the fiddle and the oboe is the secondary instrument.
Does the fiddle have a name?
No.
See, the fiddle doesn't have a name, but your oboe does.
I know.
That's an interesting... Okay, so I mean, is it pop psychology that I have these conversations and like, what does this mean? And then it was, what? So, so here we have you moving to Hong Kong, in a way, shaping yourself to the opportunities that come up here. Some of them require a fiddle. Some of them require living on or off Lamma. You're taking these jobs, and then you decide. Like earlier, you mentioned it, I only mention it because you said it in a way that made me notice. Where you said, I consciously decided not to be a full-time musician.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I could see on your face that was a decision of some importance, and so. Now, as you're evolving through COVID, as you're growing yourself, you suddenly rediscover Nemo, right?
Yeah, I just reached a point where I thought, if I don't start playing again now, I may never play the oboe again.
Right.
I have a wonderful friend from university. Whose mother, also a lovely friend of mine, she would give us teaching work at her school every summer, and she used to play the oboe. And I remember her telling me that she just stopped playing one day and just never picked it up. And British me at that point, I'm still British, but like the girl that was living in the UK before moving to Hong Kong, couldn't imagine ever not playing the oboe.
Okay.
And then I moved here, and it just, for various different reasons, owing to weather in the summer, because a lot of gigs are outside. It's so hot.
Right.
I did play it with a piper when I first moved here, same piper that's in Arbery, Chris. And I kind of would get very lightheaded. I actually think I fainted one time.
Oh wow!
Because the oboe is there's a lot of pressure to play the oboe, and when it's this hot and this humid, that's not a great combination. So indoors with air conditioning, much easier, but a lot of the gigs I was getting were in bars.
Right.
The oboe just
gets lost, or
miking it up is difficult, and it just didn't seem to, it wasn't wanted by a lot of the people that I was playing with. I don't mean that in a bad way, it's just I made it sound really terrible.
No, it's funny. Poor Nemo.
I know, yeah.
We have to start a Nemo fan club.
Like, with the punk band, for example, I think I made a joke one time where I was like, I'm going to bring my oboe, and they all just look at me like I'm crazy. A nutter.
So, how, I guess you'd have to be a musician in a punk band, in a folk punk band, to get that, to understand why that's even a thing, or how that could be a thing. Okay.
Yeah, so with the with the oboe, I just wasn't playing it as much, and then it just kind of got put away in a case, and then all the gigs were being done on fiddle, and I, next thing you know, 5 years has passed, and I haven't played. And interestingly, this meant that I kind of but like I kind of discovered who I am without the oboe, because I think we'd been so inseparable in the UK. I kind of identified myself through an instrument, and I don't really think that's healthy. Moving to Hong Kong, I've been able to find out who I actually am without the music, and be okay with who I am. Eventually, I'm getting there.
But isn't that a trajectory or a journey or a path that, you know, that we all, like, to a certain extent, you have the sense of self, especially when you come out of university. You it's such an intense time, and you're growing and changing, and all you know, you're trying to decide who you really are. Yeah. And then, so in your mind, you have this identity that you, in your case, you attach. You know, you really anchored it to Nemo, and then you start discovering or developing beyond that. And but how? Okay, if you were to find a thread leading from the UK, following you along, oboe, violin, living on Lamma, performing, not having your audiences, the isolation, in a way, like, it's really interesting that as a performer, you depend, and I love the way you describe it, like your crash pad. Like, I've done rock climbing. So your crash pad is the audience, right? Which is so interesting to use that word. And then, but the thing that really you found such deep resonance, pun intended, is that is through archery. Yeah. And so, which is a very solitary.
True.
So how do you tie all that together?
I tie it all together by, so the calmness that archery has brought me has made me be able to just go out. And so, for example, now that Hong Kong is doing okay with the cases, I think we haven't had any
like 40
local
days
ones.
or whatever.
Yeah, it's just been imported, right? Yeah. So, sticking with all the guidelines, of course, doing the, 6 people at a table now, or like basically whatever the bars or the restaurants tell us is allowed, we're sticking to the rules, but just being able to go out and socialize, but being able to do that as a sane person. Because before I moved to Lamma, I was in New Territories and I wasn't seeing people, and I was still going into work. My school was still open, but we didn't have the kids there. Okay. And the teaching staff was we were all social distancing. So only half the school was in. We're a tiny school. So we've got, I think, our staff number is 23 people. And in one day, 12 people would be in, and the other half would be in. And so I was just not seeing anyone. And honestly, I think I forgot how to socialize.
Okay, well, there was that impact.
Because I wasn't doing the gigs, and I wasn't going out, and I wasn't seeing people. And when I was at work, we were socially distancing. And this went on for months, as people across the world can understand this. Yeah. Again, I know it's nothing special, but the archery has been able to keep me focused, give my mind clarity, help me regulate my emotions. So all of the stress that was building up, because I wasn't releasing it at gigs, and I wasn't releasing it on like going for dinners with friends and just having a good time, and or just being out. I wasn't doing any of this. So the archery gave me that release, so that when I did finally start going out again, being able to do gigs, I was able to regulate myself. The stress wasn't pouring all out. There were times, my friends will tell you this, there were times when I wasn't in control. Sure. which is, I feel sad to admit, but it's also good for me to be able to say that out loud. There have been times where I have just been a complete mess.
Right.
But archery has helped me. And bringing back my oboe skills, all of this has helped me to self-regulate, can keep my emotions controlled, and I'm doing much better now, especially since moving to Lamma.
Right.
Doing much better now. Right. And so I'm able to actually go out and enjoy the relaxed measures now.
Sure.
Without worrying that I'm going to, I don't know, start crying or something, or like get a bit overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Like with the gig in the mall, I remember the first time I did it, I was genuinely worried that I was going to get overwhelmed because there were so many people around.
Yeah. No, I understand.
But actually, the K-level mall is fine. It was really not that crowded. And when you're playing there, you have members of the staff walking around, making sure people don't come too close. So actually, it was quite nice.
Nice.
But yeah, I think that's how I would explain why archery is such a solitary thing, can help me to be more social, because it's helped me to start that journey of really self-regulating and letting things go, focusing on myself and the actions that I'm doing, and making sure I'm just being a good person in society. And
you describe yourself as being like this,
trying to be a good person.
You seem very well adjusted. The archery seems to be working.
Moments.
We all do. So listen, Jenny Page, look, this has been great. I've had you. We've been speaking for a while now, and thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
I'm glad I pushed myself to do this.
Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting